thank you so much for giving up your time, Phil. I really appreciate it. I can't tell you how pleased I am to actually get a chance to talk to you and chew the fat over some drumming stuff.
You're very
So
welcome, Carl. Thank you for asking me.
talk. There's a couple of things really to talk to you about tonight. Obviously, Cozy Pal's come up in a few times. We'll talk a little bit
Mhm.
about that and his Stargazer kit that you've got and the experience we both shared at the Cozy Pal Memorial, which is about 5 years ago. We'll talk about a little bit about that.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about your career. Obviously, you've played with a lot of very famous people, which is amazing, and what that's been like for you. But also, one of the things that I absolutely really would love to talk to you a bit more about is the fact that you still teach drums and encourage that younger generation into into a drumming lifestyle, into a drumming world, and what that means to you as a player and as a musician. All of those things that that you've had in your experience, what that brings to you. So, I definitely would love to talk to you a little bit more about that as well, if that's all right.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. I mean, I've been teaching professionally for coming up 23 years now. It's kind of the day job, you know. So
Yeah.
for the local authorities, I teach in a lot of the schools. So and a lot of my old pupils from many many years ago, they've gone on to be great players themselves. And they're in their 30s now. It's bizarre. Just goes to show how old I am.
Yeah,
But
I don't think you're ever
yeah,
too
it's
old to
been
rock and
really
roll.
good. Well, I don't know about that. The way I feel sometimes, I'm 56 now, not 26.
Well, you don't look 56, Bob. Not in my opinion, anyway.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Not in my opinion. So let's kind of talk. Obviously, I know a little bit about your background and how you got into your drumming through your granddad and military drumming and teaching your single and double strokes and all of those sorts of things. And your first drum kit and playing in the
Yeah.
club and all of those things, which is amazing. And I think that's what a great place to be starting. But what was it like when you got into that first band and you started playing with a group of musicians and that vibe that was in that room, that energy that you have, and unless you've played with other musicians, you can't really explain what that's like. I know when I'm teaching, I try to tell my students it's a bit like the Force because you can't. There's no other way of explaining it. It's just this energy and it feels incredible. What was that experience like for you when you first had that?
Um, I think my first time playing to an audience, I think was 1972. I think in school, I was playing in a school I Steadford, and I was really embarrassed and scared and nervous. Um, I can't really remember much about the actual gig itself, but I remember the rehearsals in the school hall. My dad had to take the kit down for me, the kit that my grandfather gave me in 1969, which I've still got, by the way.
Yeah,
And then after that, I think it was in 70, 74, 75. I played in the clubs for adults then, where my grandfather played. So he said to me, come down and play for an hour and stuff on a Wednesday night. So that was the first, playing with other musicians. But in terms of a band, like a rock band, I think I was probably about 13 or 14, and a friend used to come up like every Sunday afternoon with a guitar and his amp, and we would jam through like some Saxon songs or he believe it or not, an AC/DC song, right?
awesome.
Yeah, in about 1979, 1980, something like that. And it was, I think we used to play Riff Raff.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
great tune.
yeah, yeah. And then I joined a school band and we played a school competition or something. And then that school band kind of morphed into an original band. Um, and we did a few gigs. And basically, I was heavily into Rainbow at the time,
Hmm.
obviously seeing Cozy on the TV and seeing that kit. And I went to see Rainbow in 1980 in Cardiff on the Down to Earth tour. That
Amazing.
was the first time I saw them. And then at Donington in 1980, Monsters of Rock. And just blew me away, that thing. And I thought, that's it, that's right, that's where I wanted to kind of be in that arena, you know. And the
Yeah.
Cozy kit, the big chrome Yamaha, I was just like, whoa, whoa, come on, you know. And I tried to make my kits look like that and sound like that, and they were just tiny compared to that, obviously. Um, who would have thought many years later I would have had one of his chrome Yamahas anyway.
It's
But
incredible.
but being in my first live band, um, yeah, we did quite a few gigs, and then it got to there was nothing else for me to do in my local area, and a musician I used to work with, he said to me, "You need to branch out and um, you know, either move or join another band somewhere else." So, and that's when I joined a band called Shogun from Salisbury, and this was in '86, I think, 85, 86. It could have been,
Yeah.
yeah, 85 that was. I did my first album with them then in late 85, early 86, which I'd got on vinyl,
Nice.
which was reissued maybe about 6 or 7 years ago on CD. Um, and it just kind of progressed from there, basically. And a lot of the stuff that I did was basically from Who You Know. You
Okay.
know, I started playing in this band up in Salisbury. We did some London shows. What did I do then after that? I think it was, I went on the FM tour. I was crewing on the FM tour, and I got to know a lot of the boys. And then I met the boys from Thunder,
Yeah.
and then I just met more people. And then I think it was early '90s. I had a phone call from Andy Barnett, who was playing guitar in FM,
Yeah.
and he
They're an
said, "Oh,
incredible band.
I've given you number." Yeah, Adrian Smith called me up from Maiden,
Yeah.
and he said, "Oh, Andy Barnett gave me your phone number." I was like, "Whoa, hang on." So, so he sent me a demo tape, and I went up and auditioned for him, and I got the gig with Adrian. So I was with him for about maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. We did an album's worth of stuff. We did some loads of dates around Britain and video, which you've probably seen.
I have.
And that opened up more things again. Um, I ended up doing some sessions in Rockfield
Okay.
for a friend of mine, and then that led me to the gig with Man,
Right.
and I was with Man for like 12 years, and we toured Germany many times. Um, Being in Man, it was kind of the heroes that I looked up to. They
Yeah.
knew this band. Even they played with Man because I
Wow.
met Pacey one night at a drum clinic, and I
Did
thought,
you?
wow, yeah, wow, this is Ian Pace, one of my drum heroes, and he signed my Perfect Strangers album. And I said, "Oh, I've just joined a band called Man," and he looked at me, he said, "Have you?" He said, "I know them."
Oh,
I was
brilliant.
like, "Wow," do you know
Oh,
what I mean?
that's cool. And
Yeah,
that's so cool.
yeah. It was bizarre. So a lot of these guys I went to see in 79, 80, 81, you know, your White Snake, your Sabbath, your Rainbow, they all knew who Man were.
Wow.
And it's like, wow, it's just bonkers, you know. Um, and after, what did I do after Man? I met up with the Asia boys, John and Jeff.
Yeah.
They had a studio near me, about half an hour away. And we used to go out with them, like most Saturdays, the wife to to a local pub and have a meal and some drinks, and it was really good fun. And then John said to me one night, he said, what are you doing on the weekend?" I said, "Oh, nothing." "Why?" He said, "Oh, do you want to come to Germany with us and do a gig?" I said, "Yeah, all right."
Wow.
So it was an acoustic unplugged thing. So I was doing like congas and tambourine and backing vocals and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
So I did that. We was playing Heat of the Moment and the big hits they had, you
Mm.
know. And then Jeff was doing his piano solo, and we were watching, and he started playing "Video Killed the Radio Star," which is like an awesome song. I remember from
It's a huge song, isn't it?
I'm
I
just
love it.
thinking, and he was looking. Jeff was looking across the piano at me, and you know, give me a wink and a nod, and I thought, "Oh my God, he's playing "Video Killed the Radio Star," you know.
Yeah.
And why is it me? Why was I there? You know, it's just mental. And uh, when did I join Shy then? 'Cause you talking?
I was talking to you
I
about Shy
joined
earlier on.
Shy at about 2000. Yeah, yeah. So the Shy thing came up because I knew Roy Davis, the bass player. He asked
Yeah.
me to join Shy, and I did my first album with Shy after I picked up my Cozy kit, by the way, which I bought. And I thought I need to use the kit on my first album with Shy, which was Unfinished Business. And I remember I recorded it in Coventry, and I actually slept in the studio behind the kit. I went to sleep and I shut my eyes, and the kit was the last thing I saw. And I opened my eyes in the morning, and she was there. And it was nuts. So yeah,
Like,
I did 3 albums with Shy.
yeah.
We did some gigs in this country and quite a few in Germany, and stuff. But we never kind of go back out on the road, perhaps as they did in the 80s. When they were signed to MC and RCA.
Yeah.
Waffling on, Cal. Trying to think of my timeline after that. What did I do after that? 2000 odd. Yeah, I was in Man at the same time. And then Son of Man was
Mm-hmm.
born. That's right, because it was George. George and myself put that together, and George's father Mickey was the main guitarist in Man.
Ah,
So
okay,
I,
that's
so
a
I
good link.
suggested to George, I said, why don't we call it Son of Man? Because Mickey formed Man, you're his son, let's call it Son of Man.
Yeah,
So
makes
that's
sense.
that. Yeah. Um, so we did an album, the first album, and then the Back in Heavens thing happened. So the two bands ran side by side. And with Back in Heavens, we did lots of shows. We did an album and vinyl. And then the biggest gig we did with Back in Heavens was Download, Donington Park
And
in
that was just what
2016.
I was gonna ask you about that.
Oh, man. I mean, from being at the first 16 Doningtons, a dream of mine was to play there one day.
Yeah.
And I did. We opened the second stage. Now, funnily enough, the second stage was bigger than the old stages of old in the 80s. It was massive. And I even wore my rainbow Rockin' the Castle t-shirt on stage when I was playing.
Amazing.
So I tell you a funny thing though, right? We were doing the sound check, and I walked over to Sally's microphone, and I went, "Hello, Castle Donington." I needed to do that because that's
Yeah.
what Graham did. Graham Bonnet did that in
Yeah.
1980. You know,
Amazing.
and in fact, I think I messaged Graham and I told him I said that. You know, um, yeah, I was thinking 'cause I played with Graham in 2014, which was a dream come true. I think, to be honest with you, that is the pinnacle of my playing,
Yeah.
is playing with Graham, because of the connection with Rainbow and Down to Earth and Cozy and stuff
Oh,
like that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um,
And I can
I
imagine
know
that.
I missed that a little bit. That was in 2014. Um, shall I tell you how that came about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell us how that came about, because I love the way everything's all kind of connected. I think it's just
I know.
fantastic. I love it.
Well, I missed a bit. I jumped back in Evans at Donington in 2016, but I missed Graham in 2014. Um, well, I had a phone call from an agent. I think it was 2013, and said, because I had this. I started a Rainbow tribute band when I had Cozy's kit,
Yeah.
and Carl Sentence was singing for us.
Okay.
Now, Carl Sentence currently sings for Nazareth,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know
but
the name.
he's also right. He's also Don Airey's singer as well.
Ah, okay.
So I've known Carl for 30 years, and he's an amazing singer. So we had this Rainbow tribute band. We called it Catch the Rainbow, and I was such a stickler for precision. I said to the boys, I said, it must sound like the Down to Earth album. It must sound the same,
Yeah.
played the same, and I want, because if I was a punter going to the gig, if I close my eyes, I need it to sound and feel like 1980 Down to Earth. So that's what I've got the boys to play like that. I want every sound correct, everything played correctly.
Yeah.
So we done a few gigs and it went down a storm. People loved it. So this agent, he phoned me and he said, "How about I bring Graham Bonnet over and your band is his backing band?" I said, "Are you kidding me?" He said, "No, I've spoken to Graham." He said, "And I'll give you his number." And I told him you'll call him and you can hook up.
Wow.
Wow, I thought, I mean, I'd met him in about 2005 when he played with Don Airey in Britain with Chris Childs on bass and Harry James on the drums, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd known Harry for 30 years, And when Harry rang me and said, "Oh, I'm playing with Graham Bonnet," I said, "You bastard!" I said, "You lucky bastard." Um, so yeah, so that's when I met Graham for the first time. It was in 2005. But then I had to call him. So I was sat in my kitchen one evening, he was in Los Angeles, and I called him up. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be ringing one of my heroes from back in the day. You know, one of my
Yeah,
favorite singers, one of my
amazing.
favorite bands, favorite album. And to be honest with you, Kel, he was awesome. He was
That's
just
so
like a normal bloke from next door, like your old mate you haven't seen for years. I was speaking to him for an hour and a half, and he
it's
was he
amazing.
was fabulous. And he said, "Yeah, let's do this." And basically told him what I wanted to play,
Wow.
and he was really cool with it. You know,
It's
he
so
said,
humbling to hear you
"Yeah,
say
yeah,
it
okay,
though.
I'll do that." And I said, "Can I base the set around?" Well, I said, "Can I base the set around the Down to Earth tour?" I said, "We start with Eyes of the World. We'll then go into Love's No Friend and Since You've Been Gone and da 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 da." I said, "But without the long guitar solos and drum solos." And he said to me, "No, you got to do a drum solo." I said, "Oh, Graham, I'm not going to do a drum solo on Cozy's kit." I said, "I don't feel right doing that." I said, "Oh no, yeah, you got to do it." And he kept on and on, and so I relented, and so Ian and myself worked out this little drum solo in the middle of a Kill the King instrumental thing, which you've probably seen now
I
on
have.
YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen it quite a few times. I
Right,
think it's brilliant.
right. So thanks, man. But that's what we did. So anyway, come March 2014, we did like 10 shows around the country. And we did Hard Rock Hell Festival.
Yeah, I've seen
We
that.
was, we
Seen
was there.
yeah.
Yeah, Eyes of the World from there, and lots of other, yeah. Uh, and I took Cozy's kit out. And the first rehearsal we had with Graham, I picked him up from the train station in Birmingham, rehearsing in Madhouse rehearsal in Birmingham, where Roy Davies owns. And the first song we actually played together was Love's No Friend.
Wow.
And the hairs on my back of my neck stood up. And something in the back of my head was saying, playing Cozy's drums with Graham Bonnet, playing Love's No Friend. And it was just insane. We did
It's,
Eyes of the World, and I just couldn't believe what was happening, you know?
yeah, I think
Um,
it's fab.
so we did that tour. Um, just, I had to pinch myself, especially Eyes of the World, the opening track. When
Hmm.
that keyboard intro comes in, Graham walks on, he looks at me, gives him a wink or nods, and I'm thinking, is this happening? Is this actually happening? You know, because I've dreamt of this moment for 40 years
Yeah.
since Donington. You know, I've looking over those Chrome Yamaha toms and seeing Graham Bonnet singing "Eyes of the World." I thought this, whatever I do after this, nothing will come close, and I don't care if I do nothing after this. I have achieved my dream,
Oh,
and that's true.
oh,
That's
I
true.
think it's just so good hearing you saying stuff like that because I mean, obviously, a couple of years, well, it's about 5 years ago now. I got the pleasure of doing a drum duet with you very spontaneously at the Cozy Powell Memorial in Cirencester when they did their whole blue plaque ceremony. And I know that was never planned. It wasn't part of their day of events or anything like that. And I can just
Yeah,
remember sitting behind Chris Allen's kit after asking him if I could have a go and started playing away. And I look over to my left hand side, and there sat behind that those chrome toms, as you've been saying, on that Stargazer kit is you, absolutely beating holy hell out of it. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm playing with Bob. It was just one. It was one of those moments for me. I never expected that, and I was absolutely buzzing. And I just remember looking over to my right hand side, as I said to you earlier on, and seeing Brian May, Tony Iommi, and Susie Quattro just stood in the doorway looking, and I'm like, wow, this is. It's never going to get any better than that for me because
yeah. I
why
didn't
would
see
it?
that. You told me earlier about that, and I didn't know they were there. I mean, to our left was Tony Martin and Neil Murray.
They
I
were. I
remember
saw that. I saw.
Tony said
Yeah,
to me, yeah. Well, Tony said to me after, he said, "I thought you were going to play Headless Cross then," and he laughed. you know. So I started with that. I think I started with that beat or something. But,
You did, you did. It sounded really cool. And I tell you, one of the things that I really loved that you put in that when we were doing that jam, you had these really nice offbeat, like they were on a China, I think, or on a crash, and you added them
yeah,
in like on a. They sounded so good, and I came away from that, and I was thinking, I've got to learn how to do that. I've got to know how to do that. And it was one of those things that really pushed me to want to get that, to find that space to be able to put it in. So
I think in a shuffle, wasn't it? I was doing a double bass shuffle.
you were.
Yeah,
That,
yeah,
that's
something
exactly,
like
and it was that, and it was that little off. Oh,
that. Yeah.
it just, yeah. I mean, it's proper. We get into the nitty gritty of drumming with that, and it just absolutely blew me away. It was amazing, and so thank you for that impromptu thing that we did, because I've watched that video quite a few times, and I've shown it to some of my drumming students, and they can't believe it, because I've said to them, "Oh, who's this?" And they're like, "Is that really?" And it's like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Wow," they can't get their heads around it. So, yeah,
You said his name's Bob Richards, and they said who?
and then
Yeah, exactly.
and then one of them went, "But he plays with AC/DC." And that was and I went, "Yeah, I know." And they were like, "Whoa." And that's it. That was the kudos for me. Went through the roof then, which kind of brings us nicely into that, because that must have been quite a surreal snippet, if you like, from having
Yeah.
to doing those videos and stuff. Um, yeah. How did that feel? What was that like?
Um, well, we were talking about the Graham Bonnet tour in March 2014, right?
Yeah.
And merely 6 months later, I did the AC/DC videos, and what happened was I was just sat in the kitchen there, and my mobile phone went off with a strange landline number that I didn't recognize, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to answer that.
They
And
want to
then it
fill
was
my cavity walls.
yeah, and then it was a mobile number from a bass player friend of mine, Ray Jones, who was in Son of Man at the time. Now he rang me and he said, "Hi Bob." I said, "All right, Ray, what's the matter?" He said, "Any problem?" He said, "No, no, no." He said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Yeah, what's the matter?" I thought someone had passed away or something,
Yeah.
And I sat there. My wife turned around and looked at me. I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "My brother called." Now I knew his brother, Dick Jones. Dick was the drum tech since Back in Black, 1980. He's been with them that long.
Right. Okay.
He said, "My brother called this morning and said that AC/DC are in London on the weekend shooting 2 videos for a new album, and Phil hasn't turned up." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, are you available tomorrow? And do you want to? Are you interested?" I said, "What are you asking me?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I'll get my brother to call you." So his
Amazing.
brother then rang me, and I'd met Dickie before, and I said, is this serious, Dickie? He said, "Oh yeah, yeah. We've been talking about you this morning." Um, Now I didn't know this. While I was teaching all day, Ray had sent Dickie a picture, and he showed it to Angus, and they'd had a conversation. He said something like, "Oh yeah, 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 send him up." So
Amazing.
that's what happened on the Thursday. So basically, the next morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, I was on my way to London with my black Premier kit in the back of the car,
Nice.
and I got to the studio at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I met Dickie there, and they built these 2 rooms adjacent to each other. So the play ball video was done on the Friday in the green screen,
Yeah.
and then the Rocco Bust on the Saturday in the other studio in the round.
Yeah.
Um, so everything was running tickety boo, and Dickie and I set the kit up, and then he said, "I'll take you up the dressing room." So I waited in the dressing room, and I said, "If it's right for me to stay in the dressing room with the band kit?" He said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, no worries." So then all of a sudden, they all come into the dressing room with their
Wow.
wives, girlfriends, and whatnot, and they all said, "Oh, Bob, thanks for doing this, blah blah blah." I guess his wife Ella was like making a fuss. "Let me make you a coffee and have a sit down and thank you very much." I was like, "Ah, fine, no problem." and they were brilliant people. They were all fantastic people. And I remember to myself, just be cool. Don't act like some super fan.
Yeah.
Just be cool. And I just like that was it. I just treated them like normal people, and that's how it felt. And it was really bizarrely, it was really easy.
Oh, it's nice to hear that, though, isn't it? To think,
Yeah.
from those guys that, I mean, obviously, everyone from here to Timbuktu and Mars and back knows who they are. And you've got 6-year-old kids wanting to play the drums to Back in Black and Highway to Hell now. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, to be able to have that, that's just. What a great thing to be able to say that you've done. I think that's just awesome.
Yeah.
You,
We stayed in the dressing room for a few hours before David Mallet, the director, came up and said, "Right, gentlemen, we're ready for you." But before that, there was just the five of us in the room. We were just changing our tops and whatnot. Angus had his schoolboy outfit on. He was having a fag out the window, and Brian was showing me his cars on his laptop, and we were just talking about the old Bentley he drives, and
yeah.
it was just the five of us, and we were just stood there, and I, in the back of my head, I thought, there's five of us in this room. I'm the only drummer. I'm in ACDC today. It was
Wow.
just insane. And when David came in, the director, he said, "Right, gents, let's go." We went down the steps, and I was following Angus Young. And I just thought, I wish I had my phone to video this all the way down.
Yeah.
It was just bizarre. But I just thought, just be cool. Just be cool. And we walked on the set, got behind the kit, and they were all lovely people, having a laugh and a joke. And I remember Angus saying to me, "God, that's a big bass drum. What's that, a 24?" I said, "No, it's a 26, Ang."
I know,
And,
it's a monster, isn't it?
and he said to me, he said, "Oh, I bet that gives a good thump, you know." And then Brian said, "Oh, you got BR on the front. What's that for?" I said, "British Railway." you know, and they were just fantastic, just normal people. And I heard the song a couple of hours before in the dressing room before the band turned up. Tiki emailed to me. Play Ball was the first one, so I had it on my phone, and I listened a few times, and I just marking where the cymbal crashes were, if there's any particular fills,
Yeah.
because we did obviously a playback to it, and I had two massive monitors, and it was banging at the backing track really loud, so I could really lay into my kit as we were playing, because I had no muffling on the drum kit. It was an open kit. It was really loud, so I was playing along to it.
Nice.
And I remember during the guitar solo, just before the guitar solo, Cliff turned around and he looked at me. He went, "All right, Bobby boy." And I looked at him and I just said, "This is nuts," or something like that. "This is mental." And he laughed, and you could see him as Angus turns on the guitar. You could see Cliff turn and laugh, you know. And then I did a run through on my own, and Brian said to me, "You're on your own now, Bobby boy." And they all went up to the dressing room, and I did my own take. The camera's in front of me, and my mouth went really dry, and I thought, I mustn't smile. Don't smile, don't laugh. I just had to play through the track, trying not to laugh. And then the Rocco Bus the next day. This is when we had 500 people from around the world flying in, super fans who won a
Yeah.
competition to be in their video.
Wow.
And I remember saying to Brian, I said, "Brian, when they take one look at me, they're going to say, 'Who the hell is that?'" Because obviously Phil wasn't there, and they didn't know that. No one knew this, and I felt a little bit uneasy.
Yeah.
And I remember we walked down onto the set, and Brian was like, "Oh, don't worry about it, it'll be fine." And I got behind the kit, but the fans were so enthusiastic. There was Brian and Angus and Stevie and Cliff, and they were all going nuts. And Brian introduced me. He said Phil couldn't make it, and he said that we got Bob standing in today. They all went, "Ah, Bob!" They were all chanting, "Bob, Bob!" I thought, this is mad.
Wow.
And we did several run-throughs of that. And I remember then after, when the fans picked their phones up and the band were leaving, I came downstairs to make sure my gear was put away, and they all crowded round me, asking for drumsticks, autographs, pictures. I was like, whoa, what? It was
That's
nuts.
that's
And as
mental.
soon as they all got their phones and went outside on that Saturday night, they were all straight on Google. Who's this guy? Who's this guy? Who's this guy? Who's this guy?
Yeah,
Man, my Facebook went boom.
yeah,
Just people
blew up.
all over the world. It was mental, absolutely mental. And we went out for a meal that night. Brian, myself, Brian's wife, Dick Jones. Who else was there? Jeff, the guitar tech, was there. Bless him. He passed away last year. He was a lovely man, Jeff. Angus's guitar tech. And I was sat with Brian. We had a meal. We were just chatting about just normal stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember, don't ask him questions. Don't talk about the band. Just be normal. And he said to me, he said, "Are you going home tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah, I'm all packed, Brian." I said, "I'm going home." He said, "Well, we're having a photo shoot in the morning." He said, "Why didn't you call in? Why didn't you come by?" I said, "Oh, okay." I remember pulling up and his red Ferrari was there.
Nice.
It's about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. And I went in, said hello to the boys again, and they had official photograph stuff set up. Sony records were there and stuff, and we had lunch. And then I was asked to join him in photographs.
Wow.
I was like, whoa, what? Angus's wife came over and said, "Oh, Bob, would you join the boys in some photos, please?" These were the official Rocco Bus tour photographs.
Amazing.
And I was thinking, okay, I see what's going on. While I was there, let's have photos with Bob. Yes, case. And they were asking questions about me, how many albums I've done and stuff like that. And because Dickie was asking me, they were going through Dickie, and so Brian asked us out for a meal to get to know me better. Looking
Okay.
back,
Yeah.
and the photos on the Sunday, he asked me, "Oh, call in for call in, say, before you go home." So we had these photos done just in case. That's what
Yeah.
it was about.
Yeah.
You know.
So just in case
Um,
Phil didn't or wasn't able to make it.
yeah, but obviously we know what happened.
Yeah, of
Chris
course we do.
Slade came in.
Yeah.
Slade came back. But
Yeah.
in those few months, I was hearing things, "Oh, they really like you," and blah blah blah. And I was thinking, "Whoa, just leave it alone. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it." I didn't talk about it. I didn't put anything on Facebook. My Facebook was getting hit. People were saying this, that, and the other, and I was ignoring all of it. Because I know AC/DC keeps things close to their chest.
Mm.
And who am I to go blabbering on Facebook of what I've just done
Yeah.
and put photographs up? Nothing to do with me. I would not do that.
No, I understand
Some
that completely.
professional.
Yeah, of course.
And so I kept it quiet. Yes, by the Monday, everybody knew I was doing these things. It was all over the planet, basically. But the video came out in October, I think. And then it just went mad all over again. Everybody was posting on my timeline, and again, I ignored it. I didn't bite. I didn't answer questions. I thought it's not my place to do that. I'm keeping quiet, and then Rocco Bus came out 3 weeks later, and again, it all went mental. And I was, going about my day job teaching drums.
Yeah.
And I was playing in a covers band as well. And that was bizarre because I turned up at a venue and everybody was staring at me. And they were just like... And I was playing the same kit I used in the videos. And people were just... They were all staring at me and I grabbed them. I remember grabbing a microphone and saying, "Right, I am not in AC/DC. I just done the videos." And they were still staring at me. And they were still... people would be stopping me and "Can I have a picture with you?" I would say, whoa, 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 whoa. It was just bizarre.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Just
It must have been like a out of body experience.
Well, not really. I mean, at the time I was doing the videos, it felt I was having a jam with a couple of blokes in a bar. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
As I said to you earlier, the tour with Graham Bonnet, that was my highlight.
Yeah.
Because of the the Rainbow connection and the Cozy and Donington 1980 Down to Earth album, to play with Graham, playing those Rainbow songs on Cozy's kit.
Yeah.
was the dream come true.
Yeah.
Literally,
Yeah.
literally a dream come true. And as I said to you earlier, if while I was doing that, I thought if I never do anything else again, I have achieved my dream. But it was 6 months later when I did the AC/DC videos,
Yeah.
which has racked up 67 million views on YouTube.
Yeah. I'm one of those viewers.
And if I had a penny, yeah, if I had a penny for every one of those, I could have retired.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
I
Definitely.
know,
It's
I know.
amazing. But I still love the fact that, you're still teaching, and for me, and going into school, and inspiring younger drummers. I love that. I love the fact you do that. I think that's just such that for me, that's one of the biggest part of your everything for me, is because it's quite a humbling thing to hear that, with everything you've done and the people you've played with, you still do that. You haven't forgotten where it all begins.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, Cal, sometimes when I get a student in, I ask about who they like, what they listen to,
Yeah.
what their influences are, what music, what bands they into, and when they say, "Oh, AC/DC, I like AC/DC," I said, "Oh, do you?" Yeah, and they don't know. If they haven't seen them, they just don't know.
Just don't know.
You know?
Yeah.
And I remember in one school, the music teacher, he put it up on the video screen. I
Okay.
said, "See that chap on the TV there, on that video? That's him there." And I'm laughing. And some of them look at me and they go, "Nah, that's not him. That's not him." And he says, "Yeah, it is him." And I said, "Yeah, it is me." Nah. And some of them still don't believe it,
Do they not? They
So,
don't believe it. Wow.
some I show it to, they go, "Oh, that's you." Yeah, I said, "Yeah, it is."
I think it's fantastic. I love
Well,
that.
yeah, well, some of them recognize me on there. Yeah, yeah, some of them do recognize me on there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, my Facebook went off the chart, and I'm getting people from all over the world. And I watched some stuff on YouTube a few years ago. I think they was when the album came out, Rock or Bust album. Of course, they did loads of press all over the world,
Yeah.
and it was like Australian breakfast television. There was big screens behind them showing the Rock or Bust video and play ball, and there was me full screen on Australian telly
Mad.
or in America or all over the world. I was like, whoa, hang on. Then I did Bonfest. I was asked to go to Bonfest up in Scotland, and John Crawford, the organizer, he was actually on his phone to someone. So Tony Carenti, who was one of the original players for DC on the first album, he was talking, and I walked in thinking he's talking to one of his friends on FaceTime. So I go behind Tony and John and go, "Hello." And unbeknownst to me, he was actually live with Australian TV.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So very bizarre. Very bizarre.
Yeah, no, I love all those sort of stories. I think it's just fantastic. And I talked to Shutty, the drummer from Terrorvision, last week, and hearing some of his experiences, he was telling me about the fact when they toured with Def Leppard on the Slang tour back in '96, and he said they'd set up at Wembley, and ironically, it was I saw them at that show, and he said to me that they set his kit up and Rick Allen came out and sat behind his drums, and he said he played it better with one arm than what I ever could. And I thought it just cracked me up. And he said, but it's just stayed with me the whole time. And he said it was a real, for him, again, it was one of those real, couldn't quite believe that they were touring with that band, and what a nice bunch of blokes. That they all are. He said that Joe, and Phil, they all just made him feel so welcome and he said it was such a great time. And for him, that was probably one of the highlights of their career, like when they toured with Motorhead, and he got
yeah.
and he got to sit behind Mickey D's kit, and he was like just blown.
What an awesome player. Mickey D is an awesome player.
Isn't he just? And what made me laugh about Shutty, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, he said, I sat behind that kit and he said, there were more drums than I knew what to do with.
Yeah. I gave Mickey D a pair of Cozy's drumsticks.
Did you?
Yeah, because I knew Mickey was a bit of a fan of Cozy's or something. So because I got to know Lemmy quite well.
Did you?
Because the band Man back in the day, yeah, Lemmy loved Man.
Did he?
He absolutely loved Man, and I think yeah, Motorhead were playing. I first actually met Lemmy in '89 in the Sam Ritz Club in London.
Okay.
But I'd had a few beers and I just shook his hand and said hello and stuff. But then they played Newport Centre, and I think it was 2000, early 2000s, something like that, 2003, 4. And a friend of mine was working on the crew, and I was side stage, Phil's side, and they were playing, and then they stopped playing, and Lemmy said, "You got great rock and roll in Wales." He said, "You got Dave Edmunds and the Man Band," and I was like, "Shit, I play for those. I play for Dave Edmunds and Man." So, so I
Amazing.
said to Tim Butcher, and Tim is an old friend of mine, and Tim was Lemmy's bass tech. So I
Yeah.
said to Tim, I said, "Tim, I got to meet Lem." I was like, I've just joined Man. I've joined Man and stuff. And he said, "Oh, have you? I'll take you in." So I got taken into Lem's dressing room, and Tim said, "Oh, Lem, this is Bob. He's the new drummer in Man and stuff." And
Brilliant.
Lem was a darling. He said, "Hiya, Bob." He said, "How's Mickey and Deke and the boys?" And from then on, every
Yeah.
time he came to Newport or Bristol,
Yeah.
I'd go down and spend time with him in the dressing room, and he used to get me
Amazing.
pissed. He got me pissed as hell sometimes.
I bet he did.
Honest
I
to
bet he
God.
did.
And he was a wonderful, wonderful man. He was so funny.
Yeah.
He was he was well read, very witty, and very polite.
Yeah.
And we swapped numbers, and I think I was doing a gig. They were playing in Newport, sorry, and I was playing in Cardiff, and he texted me and he said, "Give me a call when you're leaving." So I turned up at the gig while all the gear was being packed down. I got straight into the dressing room, and he was wonderful to me. And every time I was down there, he always looked after me, gave me AAA passes. He gave me a bottle of Jack Daniels, and
Get
he
in.
was just wonderful man. Honest to God, wonderful man.
And the
Nobody
thing
has a
is,
bad word to say against him.
it's great hearing that though, because obviously, when we talk about rock and metal, and we talk about all the people we've talked about tonight, and Lemmy is a pillar of all of that. You know,
Yeah.
they are Motorhead are just one of those bands. I was listening to Overkill in the car actually when I was on the way back from school. On the
That's
way back from
awesome.
school, and I was listening to that double bass drum in that, and because I love a bit of that, and I just thought, wow, and again, it's one of those things for me. That's something I've never ever been able to master. Be really really confident at, and I've seen people like Eric Singer, and Alex Van Halen and Lars Ulrich, all those guys that are renowned for playing the two double bass drums, and obviously I saw you do it and physically in the same, and I've always wanted to be able to do that, but I've never got it to the point where I feel that I'm good enough to get it at.
Yeah, but listen, don't class me in the bracket of Alex Van Halen and Mickey D as far as double bass drums are concerned. I mean, all I do really is either like quick eights or 16s or a fast double bass drum shuffle because I grew up listening to Cozy Powell,
Yeah,
so
but I
Cozy
can't
did.
I can't even do that.
But growing up listening to the Buddha Khan album with Cozy on with Michael Schenker.
Yeah.
Uh, and his solo albums and his double bass shuffles, and that's I just copied all that. I mean, if you want to see double bass players, you want people like Mike Tirana and Thomas Lang. They can do
Yeah.
with their feet, or they can do with their hands.
I mean,
And I don't go that far.
no,
I don't want to. I'm not interested in going that far, to be
no,
honest with you, because I don't need to do that in my bands.
no.
I can only do what I need to do for the song. To be
And
honest
and
with you.
and I think actually that is a great point, isn't it? Because I mean, there's obviously there's some bands out there that are heavier than heavier, which they're not necessarily my taste, but I have massive appreciation for them. Where you've got, where it's like Sepultura, and you've got,
Oh yeah, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you look at the double bass drumming on that, and sometimes it becomes a point where it gets lost. Do you know what I mean? It's almost because it's so prominent and there all the time, it loses its effect in what it brings into something, because it just becomes this barrage just thrown at you. Whereas when it's used subtly and not all the time, and then you hear those old little triplets and little things like that that work really, really nicely, then it's kind of, oh yeah, that's where it comes in, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
Or any
for
songs and stuff like that, you know.
exactly,
Um, but that just come to mind when I was doing the first Shogun album in 85, 86. We rehearsed a song with my acoustic kit, which was a double bass shuffle, which was dink 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 dink, which was like Hot for Teacher basically.
yeah, I love
That,
that. I love that.
it was that type of thing going on, right? So
Yeah.
come the guitar solo, I remember rehearsing. I dug my feet. I go ding ding. I went digga 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 digga, which was like 16th note,
Yeah.
semiquavers on the feet. Digga 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 digga.
Yeah.
So I come to the studio. I couldn't take my acoustic kit in. There was a Simmons kit there, and I thought,
Okay.
this one bass drum I had. I thought, how am I going to do that? So I remember going, hang on, wait, hang on, boys. So I unplugged the lead from the bass drum. I plugged it into the snare drum, and I replayed the bass drum track with my hands going dink 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 dink. And
Ah,
then I went,
interesting.
come to the guitar solo. I could go digga 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 digga. I could play what I did
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
with my hands because there's no other way I could do it.
No. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a little trick. Yeah,
But that's good to. It's all those sorts of little things. I love hearing all those sort of little things, because that always, makes difference. I mean, I've been lucky enough in my time drumming. I've recorded 2 or 3 EPs with bands I've been in. We've never done anything with it, but it's always quite an experience being in the studio. How's that been for you? What's that been like? Have you ever come up? I mean, I remember having to have stuff dampened down because the toms were, too much on them, and they needed to dampen the head off or whatever. Have you ever had anything like that where you just can't quite get the sound of your kit how you want it? Has that ever happened?
not really. I don't think so. Since I think since the 90s, I've been very lucky to be in really good studios like Rockfield, Mono Valley, and things like that. And there's a studio internationally called Sonic One where I've just done the last 2 Man albums. And Tim Hamill, the engineer, is a genius. And I like my drums to be open. I don't like
Yeah.
any damping. So if, let's say, for instance, Tim might say to me, could you put a bit of moon gel on the snare, please? Then no problem. I put a bit of moon gel on the snare. But other than that, they're all open.
Right.
I like the drum to speak. I like the wind it creates.
Mm-hmm.
I like that boom. I don't
Yeah.
like anything too dead.
Yeah.
Because it's akin to the 60s jazz sound. Open. Not highly pitched,
Yeah.
but the bottom heads are cranked up, so it throws the sound out, but it's got that doo, that kind of sound going on.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Right. Yeah, so I can just flick of the wrist and the drum will just boom.
And it'll
I love that.
just sort of sing out really.
Yeah, where I get issues is when
Yeah.
I do live gigs.
Right. Okay.
Now, I most of the time use bass drums with no hole in the front.
Yeah.
And I know engineers then come up and look and they say to me, you've got no hole in the front. And I said, yeah, that's right. There's no hole in it. I said, but I've tuned it well. So it sounds great acoustically. So all they got to do is make that sound better through the rig.
Yeah.
You know, I remember doing an open air festival with Man in Chepstow Castle. And I was setting the kit up and he was younger than me, an engineer. He looked at my kit, he said, you got no hole in the bass drum. I said, yeah, I know. I said, but it sounds great. I said, I played all over the place with it. Oh, well, he said, I'll be the judge of that. He said, I'm a drummer as well. Oh, dear. Wrong thing to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially
So
to you, when you've had years of experience of playing and everything,
Well, it just wound me up a little bit, But then we did the sound check, and after the gig, he apologised. He said, I'm really sorry. He said, they sounded awesome. Said,
And that's nice to hear that he actually recognised that he was in the wrong.
Yes. Because I think earlier I said, well, I'm not 12. I know what I'm doing with tuning. You know, I think it comes to like if youngsters turn up at a gig with a bass drum with no hole in it and it goes boing, that's when you get the issues.
Yeah.
But if you use PS3s front and back with a felt strip on it and
Yeah.
you crank the front head up low tighter than the back, you get this tremendous crack
Yeah.
and the after boom, the aftershock
Yeah.
sounds like Bonham's bass drum, and it's amazing. I mean, I've had some fantastic comments from great engineers who know their business, who know what to do. Like with the Silver Sparkle, I did
Yeah.
an opening with Bucket Evans, and the engineer said, "Wow, that bass drum, the sub from that bass drum is incredible." And there was no hole in it, but it was just tuned right, you know.
Yeah. And
And
it's
I did,
amazing to hear you talking about
I
tuning
did a
and that.
festival. Yeah, I did a festival. We were supporting Hawkwind,
Mm,
and I was doing a sound check on my bass drum, and he said, "That's the best bass drum I've heard all day." It's things
nice.
like that from real engineers
Yeah.
who know their stuff, who can
Yeah.
deal with it. As opposed to youngsters who learn it in college. Oh, you must have a hole in it. You must fill it full of blankets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what's the point in having an expensive drum then and good
Yeah.
heads on it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I digress. That's
No,
but
but this is really important because the audience are going to listen to this are aspiring drummers. Hopefully the guys that hopefully are going to create the music for us that we'll enjoy into the latter years of our life. Going on, and I think it's really important that they hear about the experiences and the things that you bring from your style and with how you play. I mean, I'm very much into all of my drums are triggered now, so I play silent stroke heads, and they're triggered through a drum module or a brain, as you like. So my kit always sounds the same, irrespective of how small my room is or how big my room is. That'll
yeah,
depend on how good the rig is to get the volume out. Um, so
yeah, yeah,
because and you'll have experienced this when you get into a small room and you play a snare and it's go poing and it's bouncing off all the walls, or you're playing your bass drum and you've got this real and the thunder that's coming out of it is bouncing off all and you're like,
yeah,
oh, and then you got people, oh, I can't hear my guitar over your drums,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Oh, yeah, been there, done that. Yeah, absolutely. I
Exactly.
mean, I just remembered my red sparkle or red glitter Premier kit. I took it out to Germany with Man, and I think it was in 2000, something like that. And one night, I think we might have been in Hamburg, and the kit sounded absolutely wonderful in the room. And then the next day, we get to another venue, and it sounded awful. It's because of the room we were in.
Yeah.
And then the next day, it goes to another room, and it's amazing again.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember Martin, the bass player, in the drum when I was doing the drum sound check. He stood at the back of the room, and I was playing away, and he said, "You don't need a PA. That's loud enough. Don't put him in the PA." And I said, Martin, you lot haven't started yet. When you lot start playing, all the amps kick off, and I'm buried.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh man,
It's brilliant.
it's important to have them tuned well. They've got to be tuned well.
And that's an art form in itself, just being able to tune your kit well. I remember seeing a video years ago, which Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers had made, and I'd watched this. It's called the Red Hot Rhythm Method, and I was really into the Chili Peppers back in the early '90s, and Chad Smith has been a massive influence on my groove style of drumming ever
Yeah,
since that, and I love all these offbeats and all of those things. And I slightly digress, but what was great about that is when he demonstrated how to tune his kit, and I really like that, because up until that point, I don't suppose I'd really thought about tuning a kit in a certain way. And then I
yeah,
watched, around the same sort of time, Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden, he did one as well, which is called Rhythm of the Beast. And he did the same thing, but it was, again, done in a completely different way. So he was demonstrating one of his kits that he had on the Somewhere in Time tour, so that really lovely black kit that he took out on that, and he had one of his small rack toms. I think it was a 10-inch one, and he took the heads off and he said, right, what do you want to do? And you want to stand on it, he said, I want you, and he was like, whoa, you're going to put all your weight on it, sort of thing. And he said, slacking it right off. And I thought, yeah, okay. And those sort of things, unless I'd seen that, no one had ever told me that. That was just something from watching a VHS video, What are
Yeah.
they? What are they? They're going to say,
Yeah.
those people are listening. What are they? Can I find it on YouTube? It's that whole. But that's the thing, and I think I
Talking about
find
tuning,
yes,
you'll be interested in this, right?
yes.
When I got Cozy's kit, um, I found an old bootleg from the Slide It In tour from Hammersmith Odeon,
Oh wow,
which was the kit that I'd got.
brilliant.
So there was the drum solo, and then he did the quads.
No, yeah, I love
I
that.
I could actually pitch the tom notes as he went around. Dum 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 dum. I had my piano at the time in the garage,
Yeah,
so I went to the piano and I pitched the notes. And the first tom was A flat.
yeah,
Sorry, or B flat. B flat. Sorry, B flat for the first tom. A flat for the second tom. D flat for the first floor, and B flat for the octave last floor tom. Now, the tape might have stretched. It could have been a semitone up or lower. I don't know, but
yeah,
that's what I pitched at the time. So then I stripped the heads off the first tom, top and bottom. I spun it around. I waxed the bearing edge of the bottom of the Yamaha 15-inch rack, first one.
yeah,
I used a candle, a rubber candle on it to make it smooth. And I put the head back on, and I put the rim on, which was a solid steel rim. And I torqued the bolts down evenly all the way around, and I used a stick to pitch B flat on the head all the way around.
yeah,
So that bottom head was B flat.
yeah,
I turned it over. I did exactly the same with the top head. So then that drum changed from some random pitch with overtones to
yeah.
now a B flat note that just went doo. I thought,
Nice.
wow, what a difference.
Yeah,
Then I went to the second rack tom to the A flat, did exactly the same, but to A flat. Went to the floor tom, D flat, and then B flat octave. Now the floor toms, that was immense. When I tuned those heads the same, that floor tom rang for a week.
wow.
It was incredible, and what a difference to the sound of that drum kit when I took the time. It took me a few hours.
Yeah,
Took the time to tune it properly. Now we went with the bass drums because I wanted the drums to sound like they did when he was playing them.
yeah, of
So
course.
the bass drums were he had pillows in there, which was touching the front and back. Just took the edge off. Now, obviously, he had a wooden beater, and it punched that back head, and the bass drum went through like a 40,000 watt rig anyway. So I wasn't too concerned about the bass drums.
Yeah,
Right? They always sounded like cannons going off. But the toms, when I tuned the toms, took my time. Oh man!
just change. And did it change the feel of the kit as well when you were playing it?
Yes, in terms of the feedback I got from the tonality of the drums, and they just spoke to
Yeah,
me. They just spoke better. It just resonated. The pitch was beautiful. It was just well worth doing it. And I try and do that with all my premieres as well, But now I've been cranking up the bottom heads higher than tops,
okay.
and it throws the sound out there more.
That's definitely worth knowing that because I didn't know that. So that's good
I
to hear.
still, yeah, I still try and balance the rods, the tuning bolts
Yeah,
equally, so I lose a lot of these overtones coming out. I try and get rid of those. I
yeah,
try and look for a nice, straight tone coming out. But if you crank the bottom head, it really just throws that sound out. And I remember doing a gig. I think it was one of the guys from Man, Deke Leonard. I was playing a gig with Deke Leonard, and Aled Richards came down. Do you remember Aled Richards from Catatonia?
yeah, absolutely.
From Catatonia. He and I were friends, and I had the black Premier kit. It was a 24 bass from the time, 2414. I think it was 216s at the time. I was heads up. Now, I think I only had a mic on the snare and the bass drum. And Al had said to me in the break, he said, "Go, those drums sound amazing." He said, I said, "They're not mic'd up, really. It's just going on the snare." He said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, the toms aren't mic'd." He said, it sounds immense." So I took him up on stage and he came behind the kit and I showed him and he went, "Wow,
Nice.
what a difference. You crank up those heads and it just throws it, you know.
It's really good to hear that sort of thing, because that's all the sort of stuff that I think, a drummer knows that, so it's really good. It's really, really good to talk about that. Bob, I'm very aware we could
And
talk for
everybody,
hours. Sorry,
yeah,
carry
but
on.
everybody say I'm really loud. I remember doing a gig with Jeff Downs from Asia, and
Yeah.
he put this little band together for a bit of a festival near where he lived. Danny Wilson was playing guitar, and I never met Danny before, but he's a lovely guy, great player. And Danny was in Shawaddy Waddy for years, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he said to me, he said, "Jesus Christ," he said, I thought Romeo was loud, and Romeo was the drummer
Yeah.
in Shawaddy Waddy." He said, "God alive, you're the loudest drummer I've ever." I said, "I'm not loud, Dan." I said, "It's my drums are tuned open. So
Yeah.
I can just give them a whack and they'll just speak."
And they'll sing out.
And I think that's the difference. Because if you've got a drum kit that's really heavily damped or low pitch, you can hit it as hard as you like. It won't travel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is. I probably do it hard when I want to,
Yeah.
but they're loud anyway. So I could give them a bit of a stroke and they'll just speak. And that's the difference.
No, well, that's good. It's good to hear, Bob. I'm very aware we could talk for hours on lots of this thing, and it would be really good, perhaps,
Oh,
to
yeah.
to perhaps do a part 2 of this at some point, if you're keen. I would love to do that. It's been
Well, I did warn you. I did warn you I could go on for hours, man.
Yeah, and I like that, and I can too. I think we're I'm certainly I'd like to think I'm cut from the same cloth in that respect, as I can chew the fat for a long time. um, and I really, really could. I'm hoping that at some point our paths are going to cross properly. We'll get to see each other and maybe have a pint together. I'd love to do that. And I'd certainly like to talk to you some more about kind of your teaching and everything like that. If you'd be happy to do another chat with me at some point, we could talk about what that's like, and maybe some of the things you do in your teaching, and what syllabuses and things you like. Perhaps that would be fantastic to do that. But thank you so much for giving up some time and chatting to me. I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot. It really does.
Yeah, no worries, man. Thanks for asking.
That's